Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm going to be dropping a solo episode today. And I was recently on a coaching call for a high level mastermind that I'm a part of. And I heard a message that really impacted me. And I wanted to share my take on it with you guys. So really the message about the call was about intentionality. It was about getting the most out of your days, and it was about focus. So today we are going to talk about getting really intentional on goal setting, getting really intentional on removing distractions from your life, and getting really intentional on growth. We're also going to talk a little bit about setting boundaries and some best practices that you can do in order to make sure that you're effectively setting boundaries as to not interfere with your production and to not interfere with taking you to the next level. So I've said this before and I will say it again. This is separation season. So not only are we dealing with seasonality, which the past couple of years, it's felt like seasonality on steroids. We're obviously dealing with crazy high inflation. We've got war going on. We've got all kinds of crazy stuff. And obviously we still have high interest rates and we have low inventory. So the only thing that you can do is control what you can control. You can't control the economy. You can't control what's happening in other parts of the world. The only thing you can control is really what's happening in your ecosystem. And I heard somebody else talk about this, but they said, run your own economy, right? Be in charge of your own little ecosystem, your own little financial world. Don't worry about what else is going on outside of your control. And what it does is it insulates you from really being impacted by the fear, by the panic, by what could happen or what could go wrong. And I think that the big difference between those who will win in this market and those who may lose or those who may not strive is the people that are drowning in distractions right now. So I don't know about you guys, but I see this all over the place. And it really, I've become a lot more cognizant of the fact of what's happening. And I'm sure some of you have as well. But if you look around in the gym, if you look around in the food store, if you look around in the park, and even in social settings or in the building that I'm in, you see people that are just walking around. They look like zombies, right? A lot of people just have the phone so glued to their face, and you can tell that they're so absorbed in that. And it makes me wonder what's happening at home. It also makes me wonder for those with children, are they doing the same thing at home? And what's going to happen for the future generation, right? So my wife and I, we're very intentional about the amount of screen time that my son's allowed. You know, he's 6. He's not running around with a phone or, you know, his own iPad he brings with him everywhere. And it's not a knock at anybody who does that, right? But I think that we need to be very careful of the distractions and what's happening to the brain chemistry, because I think if we don't do something about it now, not only are we impacting, you know, the little things in our brain and, you know, the dopamine receptors, et cetera, but I think that we're also impacting our growth potential, and we're really impacting getting to the next step or the next phase. Because what it seems like is going on is that it's become such a vice that you can just go to the device. You know, you can pop on Facebook real quick or Instagram and actually kind of escape from reality. And I think that it's just causing more and more anxiety and more stress. And many people don't even realize it yet. So for me, the biggest killer of productivity personally is social media and it's email. So for you, you need to ask yourself, what is the biggest killer of your productivity and what's the biggest source of your distractions? So a lot of people say this, and I'll just kind of reiterate it, but you really can't change the outcome, or you can't change what's happening behind the scenes or what's causing you to feel, you know, like you're running in 15 different directions if you don't start to analyze the behavior that's getting you there. So I would suggest to do a self-audit after you listen to this podcast and figure out for you, what is it, right? Is it the phone? Is it social media? Is it email? Is it some other vice or addiction or, you know, behavior that you shouldn't be doing or you're doing too much of? and really take some time to self-reflect and figure out what you could do differently. So for me, I'm actually becoming like psycho intentional about how do I cut the screen time and how do I cut the social media by 50% or greater. I've realized that not only I think is it affecting my eyes a little bit, but it's also affecting my productivity. And I think what we don't realize is that the little like dings and notifications, it just throws us off so much. And I've spoken to other people about this before, but the reason why I have two phones is because I want to be able to separate a little bit. I want to be able to, have the free time, have the personal time, especially on the weekend, especially when I'm traveling. So for you, I think it's time to do a self-audit. I'm constantly trying to self-audit. What can I do a little bit better, or what can I do differently? And for me, I know that the biggest thing is cutting down the email and cutting down the social media. And I think that the one thing that I'm working on that they talked about in this call that I referenced in the beginning of the podcast is maybe you get to the point where you have blocks, right? It's on the calendar of when you're actually consuming something, or when you're going to check email, when you're going to come back, when you're going to get back to people. And this is going to kind of segue into the boundaries topic of today's podcast. So what I think another thing is that I know a lot of people struggle with, and I especially struggle with this a lot in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, is the need to feel like you need to get back to people instantaneously, right? Like something is going to happen if you don't get back to that person right away. Or what will they think? Or will they not like me anymore? Or will they not do business with me if I'm not available at all hours of the day and all hours of the night? And especially for all you real estate entrepreneurs out here, I know that you can empathize with this. I mean, it's crazy. Some people think that we're 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, which to me is not the case, right? You have to have the downtime. And my wife and I talk about this all the time. This is one of the only businesses, real estate sales, where there is no boundary, right? And it's mainly because the general public has been trained to be that way, or to just kind of assume that there is no boundary. But I can tell you, your life will start to change once you start to implement boundaries. I can remember, just a quick aside note, one of the attorneys that I use, somebody, I guess he gave his personal cell phone out to, and I guess they started to abuse the fact that they had his personal cell phone. And I can remember he sent an email and he said, please stop calling myself. Please don't call my cell phone again. And I can remember reading that. And I can remember, you know what? First of all, it may come off as if it's a little strong. But then when you think about it in a different way, think about the power of being able to set that boundary and being able to be in a place of not only authority, but having the self-respect for yourself that you have to create this boundary. So the other thing that I just want to talk about is really getting rid of the need, or getting rid of the mindset that this is the way it's been and this is the way that it always has to be. I think that that's a big point of stress for a lot of people. And I want to hold up this book, and I'll just shout out the book for people that don't watch this on YouTube. But this was recommended to me by a good friend of mine. And it's Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. Okay. And this is by Brian Tracy. And what they talk about in here is really starting to rewire the way that you think, rewire those inklings or those intuitions or those feelings that other people are going to judge me, or I have to stay this way because it's always been that way. What you don't realize, guys, is once you remove that lid and you start to think at a different level, your life and your brain chemistry actually starts to change. So I would challenge you to start to think, first of all, what can I do to get more intentional, right? What is stopping me from growth? What's stopping me from becoming more intentional? And what is robbing me from my focus? What's robbing me of my joy? And a lot of times I think it's pretty easy to dissect if you just take a little bit of time to go back and really analyze, what could it be? Or what could I change? Or, you know what? Who could I ask for help in this department? And that's something I'm trying to get better about is who can I reach out to that does something at a very high level? So I would just start to take all this into consideration on your journey to becoming more focused and more intentional, more powerful, which in turn is going to lead to better business results, better months, better quarters, better years. The worst thing that can happen is that you're the same place next year that you were right now, and especially the place where you were last year. So we're always looking forward. We're always driving. We're always trying to get to the next step. But I think that we can also do that with a lot more clarity and a lot less distractions. So that's it for today, guys. Short episode. Really appreciate you guys tuning in and appreciate the support. Please share this episode with anybody that needs to hear it. If you have not yet already given it a review, please do so and greatly appreciate it. Talk to you soon.